Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral D. We have with us Shikhar Aggarwal, Joint Managing Director at BLS International, joining in. Shikhar, welcome to the show and a pleasure to speak to you as always. Shikhar, my first question coming to you is, it's become a normal now for me to ask anyone as to how COVID has impacted because that's something that has concerned everyone. The impact that we saw in the first wave for a lot of businesses was tremendous. It started to wean off slightly, and then you have the second wave which has come in. An industry that you function, that you belong to as well. If you could just help us understand how has the impact been in both the waves and how prepared are you to conquer the third one?
Thank you, Hiral, for inviting me for the webinar. As you know, BLS International today is in 66 countries and we are working with more than 46 client governments. We have processed more than 50 million applications till date and are on track to become a global leader in our space. As we know that pandemic has affected all sectors, our sector has been affected also heavily. During the first wave, what we saw was there was a complete lockdown all across the world. All our offices were completely closed in different parts of the world. Some parts of our business in citizen services and banking correspondent was still working and still ongoing. So we were getting some revenue from that during the first wave, but otherwise it was a complete lockdown. So the shift from the first to the second wave, what we've seen is the second wave has happened in different shifts or different pockets in different parts of the world. So our business has not completely shut down. So in some parts of the world, some offices were closed, but other parts of the world, the offices were open. So in the second wave, we saw, very healthy revenues from our citizens and banking correspondent services, and also the counselor services. A lot of our counselor services, be it the renewal of passports or other attestation services, have been performing very well for the last 1 year, in spite of the COVID scenario. So we saw even in the second wave, since these are essential services, people have been coming to our centers and in fact offering from some value added kind of services wherein we come to their homes and collect these services. This is the impact that we saw.
Right. So, with all of this, how are you maneuvering with your business strategy as well, taking into consideration that yes, these difficult times could probably continue for the next 6 to 8 months as well, and we don't know if something like COVID will go away or stay, and how long will it take for us to actually get 100% used to it. So, any change in strategies?
Yeah, see, definitely because of the COVID, our visa business has been impacted because the lockdowns imposed by governments worldwide, and we have no control on that lockdowns. But during these times, also we have managed to give a healthy profit, because of
Right.
our rationalization of expenses and increase in revenue from our different lines of business, be it counselor service, citizen service, or banking correspondent services. So, during the FY21, major revenue was contributed by consular and citizen services. I
Mm,
would say that because of this scenario, what has happened is a lot of our different services like, premium lounges or mobile biometric services have performed exceptionally well. People are not wanting to come to the centers to avail these, services. They want the delivery of services like visa and passport, but then offering for different methods or mechanism wherein we go to their houses and deliver these services, or they choose for courier. Our strategy has not shifted as much. We are focused on our business of visa counselor and citizen services. But what we have seen is that the revenue from counselor services and we recently won contracts from state governments like UP, where we opened 10,000 centers across the state of UP. Our banking correspondent business with the State Bank of India, where we have 1,900 branches in 5 districts, 5 states in India, have performed very well. We have been part of the direct money transfer scheme of the government of India.
mm.
All these businesses have performed very well during these times.
Okay. So with all of this, as you mentioned, you have still managed to be profitable and in fact given good numbers as well on that front. Another thing is that despite the fall in revenues, you have minimized the decline in margins, and that's again on the back of the expenses that you've realigned in line with the business operations. Is that something that you think could be one of the best practices that could continue in the future as well, or do you think it's really constrained to continue with something like this for a long period of time on a sustainable basis?
So, Hiral, what happens is that as we are a company which is cost efficient company, definitely, the good thing about our model is an asset light model. We don't have very high fixed costs. So we have very flexible agreements with all our landlords across the world. For us, the major expenses are the salaries, the rentals, and the refurbishments. So we have negotiated that with the governments across the world, wherein our rents were reduced. We have renegotiated the salary with the people, that has been reduced to streamline it according to the operations that are currently happening.
Mm.
And we've also got incentives from a lot of governments like the US, UK. So all these expenses or change in scenario have also reduced the cost of working for us. So that has definitely led to increase in margin. Going forward, I feel definitely the new learnings that we've had in this scenario will definitely lead to a big cost realization in the near future. There's a different way of working now. We are also using a lot of technology in our work. We are operating with we are using more softwares to process applications than manpower. So definitely, I think this rationalization is here to stay. Definitely, there will be an increase of expenses when things
Mm.
open up more. But definitely, as we have learned during the scenario that we can operate at this level, there will be a savings and increase in margins.
Okay. And overall, with regards to where FY20 goes, there was a one-time impairment charge of around 27, 28 odd crores on account of closure of UKVI. In future, do we see any impact of the same, and what happens to that part of the business?
Correct. So that was a one-time impairment expense for the expenditure that we had done for the contract with the UK Home Office. That was performed very well, and we exited that contract on a very good note with the government, wherein our conditions or our requirements that we had participated in the tender were not being fulfilled. So we thought that because of the scenario, it is best to exit. But we have a very good relation with the government. In fact, there is a big tender coming out with the UK government in the next 1.5 2 years that is worth upwards around $1 billion, that we are, poised to participate in and win a chunk of that contract. So it will not be repeated. This kind of, one-time expense was happened only in that time.
Okay. And overall, with regards to where operations are concerned, what's your anticipation? What's the status in terms of resumptions?
See, governments are more eager to resume operations. For them, tourism, is a big contributor to the GDP. A lot of European governments in Russia, China. So we have seen that governments are incentivizing travelers, with subsidizing their hotel stay, their visa costs. So a lot of these subsidies and incentives have been given by the governments across the world. So we see, right now the policies that we are operating under government, in different parts of the world, is they have opened visa categories for certain individuals or certain categories, and for that the demand has been enormous. So we are mandated by the government to release a certain number of slots every day. So the demand is much more than what the government has allowed us to open. So definitely the demand is there. Governments are being cautious in giving visas right now, but over the months, as we are seeing, every government is opening up travel for different categories of visitors. We are assuming in the next few quarters there should be a big resumption of demand, and as we know, there's a big revenge travel, that has been there. We see it in the domestic market in India, we see it in the domestic markets in the US, in different countries worldwide, wherein people are traveling domestically. Now, given the opportunity of traveling internationally, everyone is eager,
Hmm.
to visit abroad.
Right. And how long do you think we will take to get back to pre-COVID levels in terms of financials and business?
See, I cannot give
I know.
certain number because COVID is a pandemic
Correct.
across the world.
Correct.
But from what we see right now, the scenario globally going on in the next 2 3 quarters, the number for us from the visa business should start picking up. And by next year, I think there should be a revenge travel, going on across the market. And governments have told us to be ready for a increase in demand more than we expect, because there have been queries from travel agents, from travel groups, from tourism bodies to the governments to open visas for the groups travel. So there is a lot of demand, and government has told us to keep the infrastructure ready for the demand that is going to come in.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And overall, any large contracts that could be in the pipeline in FY22 that we could be looking at?
So, Hiral, that is a very important question, and I would like to give you a little background on the company also to answer that. So, as you know, there are a couple of important points here to note in our industry. If we talk about five important points, it is a industry with a heavy entry barrier in this industry. Because 15 years to reach this level where governments trust us now to award or even pre-qualify us for any work. You should understand there are 195 countries in this world. Out of that, our potential target is 150 countries. The market
Okay.
itself is only 35% outsourced till now. There is a huge demand. There is a huge potential of 65 countries which are not outsourced till now. We recently won contracts from governments like Brazil, which were for the first time outsourced to any company. Now, having said that, from the existing contracts itself, there is in the next 1.5 to 2 years tenders upwards of 1.5 to 1.8 billion dollars that are coming up for renewal by different foreign governments. Be it in the Canadian government or the UK government. We have been working with them for the last many years, having showing them our offices, telling them our solutions. So we are poised to grab a good market share of that. I would say our time as a company has come. We have been working hard for the last 15 years to
Hmm.
reach this level. In spite of COVID, there was definitely a dent in the revenues, but we managed to make a good profit. But in the next 2 years, I feel is a golden time for BLS International. Because the amount of work that is foreseen for us, the amount of tenders that are going to come out will be across the industry huge. If we even talk about getting a major chunk or some chunk of that 1.8 billion dollar pie of the
Hmm.
existing contracts that are coming up for renewal. So I think we will be highly placed to have a incremental revenue and profitable growth in the company. And on top of that, there are different contracts with governments which are now, because of COVID, fast tracking the outsourcing. Before they were a little hesitant. Now every government wants to outsource and they want a proper company to handle citizens for them and give a proper service. So I feel that next few years are the golden period for BLS, and we are working very hard to take maximum advantage of this period.
Hmm. Okay. And overall, you have commenced operations recently with Brazil, Lebanon, Morocco, and Belarus. What's the kind of revenue pipeline looking like from these geographies?
Correct. So, Hiral, as you know, these are some of the contracts that we won recently in COVID time. Last year itself, we won 7 new tenders. We won two with the Brazil government, Estonian government, and different governments. So these contracts, we have started working on them. We have started open the offices. Visa numbers have started to come in. But as you know, there are still travel restrictions in some parts of the world. So going forward, we see that numbers should increase from these contracts, and they should contribute a chunk of the revenue for the company.
Okay. And overall, with regards to where diversification in terms of where business is concerned, beyond visa processing services, to lessen the impact of the current situation, how big is diversification going to be? And what's the kind of revenue contribution we could see from diversified businesses apart from visa processing?
Correct. So, Hiral, as you know, currently our visa counselor services are having a share of 80 to 85% of the entire revenue of the company, and 15 to 20% belongs to citizen service and banking correspondent business. So, our citizen service business includes currently the contracts we have with the government of Punjab and the government of UP, and the banking correspondent business is with the State Bank of India, and we are in talks with multiple other banks, wherein shortly we'll be announcing many more tenders that we are participating and the wins that we get. So this revenue is poised to grow in the next few years, since
Hmm.
you must understand this is something that we started only 3-4 years back. This part of the business. So revenue pipeline has been growing from this, and on top of that, our revenue from counselor services is still going strong. For different nationalities across the world in dealing with the citizen service, be it passport renewal or counselor services, that revenue is going strong. So although we are focusing on increasing our revenue from citizen service and banking correspondent service, at the same time, as I told you, the pipeline that we have of 1.5 to 1.8 billion dollars in the visa service business. So I expect the revenue mix from both of the divisions to remain stable. In fact, the revenue to grow as a whole for the company.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And overall, with regards to where global and domestic opportunities go, where, will our eyes be? Where are we going to concentrate our strategy on?
So domestically, if we talk about, we are looking at definitely inorganic opportunities also in the space of banking correspondent or citizen service business, wherein we have achieved some sort of operational excellence till now. We've been operating them for last 4 5 years. The banking correspondent business has been growing at 25% CAGR every year. With the new business coming in for us, the business is expected to grow in that numbers for the next 4 to 5 years. So domestically, we feel there is inorganic opportunities in both banking correspondent, citizen service business, and also new tenders with different state governments and banks. Internationally, there are inorganic opportunities in terms of acquisition of companies that we are looking at in our same field of outsourcing of services in visa, citizen services, and definitely inorganic opportunities from the new tenders that we are working.
Right. And overall, apart from this, when we talk about diversification as well, Shikhar, sometimes what happens is you have the infrastructure ready, which can be utilized for a lot of other business segments as well. Now, taking the current situation into consideration, do you think that we could probably look at other segments of business where the existing infrastructure of BLS could be utilized?
Correct. So, Ethel, so you must understand that the business that we are in currently, we are actually doing this. The new contracts that we are winning with different government, we are utilizing the same infrastructure, the same offices. So, the cost for us in operating a new contract for the government is not the same as it was for the first contract. So we are, in fact, all these services that we're providing right now in the company are aligned, wherein people have to come to our centers to apply for these services. So all these centers can be used and are currently being used in different countries to work for different governments, common centers. So cost is coming down, the margins are going up for the company, and the next few years we foresee this to happen more across the world. Now we already have a network in 66 countries, major growth markets like Russia and China. We have multiple offices in different geographies. So we foresee growth coming definitely from these geographies also as we go forward, from Russia, China, and African countries.
Right. Another thing, that comes in on this, Shikhar, is the tie-ups and the agreements that you've done with Amazon and Flipkart as well. That seems to be a different opportunity that you've been looking at. And how big could you think this could scale up to? Because yes, these guys are known for last mile delivery, but sometimes a lot of places, especially in tier 3, tier 4, or probably the extreme rural areas is where they're not able to reach. So do you think that's something which you will be able to fulfill for them?
So we have tied up with a lot of e-commerce companies, and we're using our network, which is in tier 2, tier 3 cities across different states in India. So our target is to reach. We are already dealing with these customers. They are already coming for the government services to our centers, and they have a need for different kinds of services. So that is the reason we can deliver. We are poised to deliver this last mile connectivity for different e-commerce players in different parts of India across tier 2, tier 3 cities. And we feel we have seen a good traction, good demand coming in from these areas, and these this population and the area is eager to become the next big consumer of India. So we are definitely have the structure, the reach already there to utilize our resources to fulfill the demand.
Right. And very lastly, Shikhar, I know you will not be able to talk about financials in terms of FY22. However, if I have to look at a 3-year perspective from here on, what's the kind of milestone that BLS has set for itself from here on in terms of growth?
See, if you look at the 2019 numbers and 2019 when there was pre-pandemic level, and during pandemic also we achieved a profitability of 50 odd crores.
Correct.
So definitely, as things open up, we are targeting, as things become pre-COVID, we are targeting a heavy growth in our revenue and profitability. And with the new pipeline of tenders, inorganic growth opportunities that we have in place, next 2 3 years, as I said, would be golden years for BLS. We are working very hard to utilize all these opportunities, and we foresee that the 2019 numbers could be surpassed next 2 years.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that as well. Thank you, Shikhar, so much for joining us on the show. Pleasure to speak to you and great insights. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Speak soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.